Hey everybody, welcome back to what episode are we? What podcast
11.
is this? I don't know.
Legs 11.
By the way, happy 1 year anniversary for this podcast. Have you realized that? Like,
Is it? Oh, that's bad. That's one a month.
that is just about.
Could be worse, I guess. We could be worse than one a month. It didn't die. We didn't let it die. That was my main concern when we started this, because so many new things that I've started, particularly, I don't know if that's how you pronounce that word, but when you start a new thing in general, it's easy to let it die off. And this was one of them ones that I didn't want to have die. And there were moments where I was like, is it dying? But we always brought it back.
No, always bring it back. It's not, this isn't dead. It's just we do it when we can, that kind of thing.
I love it. I really enjoy the podcasts. I'm not going to lie, I half tempted to bail on this one today because I was tired earlier, but I had some caffeine, I had some coffee, and I'm actually really glad that I didn't. And I wasn't going to because I woke you up early.
I haven't even had a coffee yet. And I got up at, well, it's because of our time differences, Texas and Australia. Funny, we swap places. But it's like, I got up at 6:15 and I had to be here. I had to be at the studio by 7, but then you're postpone it a half an hour. And I was like, yes. I thought you would like that. It's funny actually. Speaking of the switching places, because Cam and I, one thing I really missed since I moved to Texas was hiking areas and foresty areas. Oh yeah.
And we actually found a place 40 minutes away that almost felt like I was on the BC, Canada, Oregon, Washington side of the country.
Wow.
It's just beautiful forest, and we went for this hike and we were just talking about YouTube stuff, and I was like, I really wish Eric and I at some point would have figured out being in the same place, because we could have had, the podcast. I always feel like you and I have this
thing,
repertoire, this thing that just bounces off each other so well, and I've always wanted to make it a show. I wanted to make it you and me going on adventures and doing stupid things, but we've always just switched every time. Every time I go somewhere, you go the other place.
That's what I call a classic Nintendo Switch.
Yeah. I mean, I'm all about that switching.
No, this is why we do this podcast, because we've always had this camaraderie, and it's we haven't spoken
That's the word I was looking for.
We haven't spoken for months, and here we are just on all cylinders firing, whatever that means.
I said repertoire. That's not even what it is. Close. That's
It's close. It's in the neighborhood.
I guess it's close. There's an R word I was thinking of, but it wasn't repertoire.
Yes.
So I wanted to start with, because actually we just got on Skype 2 minutes ago maybe.
Yes.
And you were like, how are you? And I was like, don't say a word, because something we usually do is we jump on the podcast, we talk about the fact that we haven't talked in a while, and we catch up, and then we start the podcast and we're like, so how's things? So I haven't actually asked you how you've been. You are sat in finally your brand new studio, which I almost care about that as much as the fact that your face is extremely naked right now.
I know. All right, so let's talk about my face first. So, as you know, when you have a beard, your mustache tends to get long, right?
You trim it. You just trim the mustache.
Yeah, I know. So, okay, here's the thing. We've just recently moved out of our house. So, this is why we're in the studio, because we don't have the house anymore. Long story short. So, I was just like, I'm just going to shave a little bit, trim it a little bit. I wanted to go for a number 2, because the number 2 is the nice kind of grown in look. I had to settle for a number 1 because that's all I had. So here I am.
Good though.
Newly turned 25, but it's 25 going on 17. That's what I look like.
I miss the beard you used to have. It's definitely my favorite look for you. But
big.
That is nice stubble. And you're looking fit too. Building that office looks like it kicked your ass a bit.
Yes, you have no idea. So normally I do have the God of War beard, Kratos beard. That's what I guess. You're getting it. It's looking good. But yeah, built the studio. We're finally done. We had our grand opening last week. There was 80 people here. It was wonderful. So
wow.
I'm dead tired, honestly. Every spare moment I've had has been a culmination to the studio. So, I'll flip the camera around and stuff, or I'll take some B-roll and I'll pan it around here. So,
right.
So the viewers can see.
I want a studio, and actually, Kitty behind you there, I like that. And actually, I've kind of halfway given up on getting a studio right at this moment. Kim and I are looking at actually moving that hiking area I was talking about. We're looking at moving there, which is like 40 minutes. We want to move there end of the year. So, and with Billy and Jay not being ready right now, Billy just had a baby. I don't know if you saw that.
I did see that.
Yeah, so they're not really looking right now either. They postponed it too. So what I've done is I've just got into the mindset of this is my studio. And I really needed to separate YouTube and my life.
Yep.
And so part of that was, this is my studio. When I'm in here, I'm working. So Monday through Friday are my work hours now. I get up, go gym. I sit here, I work for 8 hours. And when I'm off, I can enjoy my life and I'm not stressing about working or trying to film something at 3 a.m.
Wonderful.
So I kind of too built my own mental studio, but I am jealous of your actual studio.
Well, that's it. I mean, like
you don't have to pretend.
It was purely for work-life balance. I mean, it was one thing to have like the business in the front of my house, because I always felt like when people were coming in recording stuff, there's this stigma. It's like, okay, we're paying this much an hour for in the front of this guy's house. It just didn't make sense to me. Like, I never really loved it. So once we got this, we have this, and now we're really happy. So we've started to stretch our legs in the space, and we're nothing but busy now, which is good, which is what you want. But
I'm happy for you, man.
That's the thing, is that you got to have that mental separation between point A and point B. And if you can go in your spare room and legitimately work, and then knock off at like 5:30 or 5 and then just go hang out, that's great. I mean, you've been able to crack the code there.
And I think I'm going to be able to get more. I mean, I know I'm going to be able to get more work done too, because I'm probably realistically working more hours, but having more free time at the same time, because it's not getting all blurred and I'm never sure what I'm supposed to be doing. Like this week alone, I've really wanted to step up everything I've done. That's why I messaged you and I'm like, podcast Friday this time, because I knew I was going to be in my quote unquote studio.
Yeah.
I've done 2 Patreon calls this week. I've done like 2 videos. I'm working on a couple more. It's been great. But in this episode of Everything's Taken, the podcast that's about everything, and yet all we end up talking is about video games. We'll get out there eventually.
What's with that?
In this podcast, I want to let you guys know what we're going to be talking about. I want to touch on Nintendo Labo, which I have a video for that coming, but I haven't mentioned it or talked about it at all. So this will be the first time I've talked about that, and I want to get your thoughts too. I'm assuming you have it.
No, I don't.
Oh, wow. Okay. Well, I want to talk about that. And new Nintendo president today. I actually find that very interesting.
Yes.
And it's something that I'm not going to get a chance to talk about other than here. God of War. I want to touch on that a little bit more without giving away too many spoilers. I want to talk about E3 because it's around the corner, and knowing us, we won't have another podcast until about 2 weeks beforehand. And Smash predictions, which is something that I've wanted to do, but everyone and their mum did a video about it, and I didn't want to contribute to that. So I figured this is the perfect chance for us to talk some Smash predictions. And I actually have one that no one else has given, and I think it would be amazing. And I could see it actually being possible.
Well,
and it's something that's very outside of the box, and that is actually a very good pun that you'll understand once I tell you what it is.
Wow. Okay. Well, I think I get it. I think I understand now. I look forward to that. So a little segue there. Yes, we've got a lot of ground to cover. Purely because we haven't done a podcast in just so damn long.
Yes.
When was the last time we did one? Was it like?
It was with Aaron. It was Stapish. So that was over a month ago. It was a while ago.
Oh, it was well over a month ago.
They're not regular. They have no structure. In fact, I actually wanted to say we need to actually start. You know what's funny? I've never actually liked podcasts. That's why I've never done them. And then I wanted to start my own. And part of just starting that and getting into that world, I started listening to a bunch of them.
Yeah.
You might be getting more familiar with a couple of dudes in Australia called Hamish and Andy.
Yes.
Very funny guys. Have a very funny podcast. Love it. And Rhett and Link from Good Mythical Morning. I've been going to their channel a lot recently. They have their own podcast, and now it's my 2 favorite podcasts. And all the good podcasts, I now realize, have a certain way of starting the podcast. And as much as I like our way of fumbling around the words, we haven't done one of these in a while. We need to actually set in stone a way to start every podcast and stick to it. And I think we had something kind of at one point. How did it go? Welcome to the Everything's Taken podcast, where we called it we couldn't think of a name. We tried to think
exactly
of a name, but everything was taken. It was something like that. And then we ended it with the podcast to phone home about, because ET
podcast. It was like the tagline. Purely because when we tried to name the podcast, there was absolutely nothing that we could call it. So because every idea we had was taken. So I just it was like a piss take kind of thing. So I'm like, hey guys, welcome to the Everything's Taken podcast, where we tried to look for a name, but we couldn't find anything because everything was taken. So that's what you're stuck with for the podcast name. So that's it. So that's that kind of thing.
I also loved it because we could talk about everything. Like, there was in the name everything, but it was very naive of me because as soon as we got our own little space to talk about whatever we wanted to talk about, it was video games. So everything video games taken, but still. When are you coming back to the States? Before we dive into the first gaming-related topic, I need to know when I'm seeing you again, because I found out when I'm coming back to Australia, and it's not going to be for a while.
Okay. I'm going to try to get there Christmas this year.
Okay, that's too far away, but I'll accept it. I'm assuming you're going to go to New York, where you're from.
Yes, but I can do a little hop, skip, and a jump. It comes to you. You're from
New York, right? No. It's like outskirts of New York. It's near that area though, right?
Well, here's a little tidbit, little T&D.
It's like uptown and past New York. That's why I always imagined it was. I don't know why I thought
so. I actually spent the first 18 years of my life born and raised in Pennsylvania. That's me.
That was it.
I was born in Hershey. Obviously, the sweetest
I knew it was
place
Hershey
on Earth.
because I knew you were from the place that Hershey is from, but I didn't know where that was.
it's Hershey. It's like so rhetorical it hurts. But yeah, no, I grew up in Pennsylvania, and then I moved to Central Square, New York, which is just like a half an hour north of Syracuse.
Oh, okay, that's why I thought you were
3 hours east of Buffalo, close to Toronto, etc. Niagara Falls, woohoo!
Right, you have to come stay. And by then, I should be in my new place, which I have no idea what that's going to be, but our lease runs out in November. So if I'm not in my new place, I'll be on the street living in a box.
Sweet.
But I mean, thanks to the Patreons, which you can sign up at BeatEmUps Patreon.com.
Well, I mean, so if you're living in a box, that basically means you're living in Nintendo Labo. So
I could live in my Labo box. Let's segue into that.
Boom.
It was actually really nice. It was so nice. I'm not even going to continue my train of thought of when I'm coming to Australia next, which is what I was going to lead.
I want to hear that. Let's do that before we do. Let's do that before we do this.
Okay, so because of the visa process I'm going through with Kim right now, I can't even leave the country for over 18 months minimum. Yep. So as soon as I found that out, I messaged a friend of ours and said, hey, so you know how you have all my video games? I ain't going to be able to pick them up for another year and a half, which is going to equal all up about half a decade. You're going to be holding on to these things. And at that point, her mother was like, I think it's time you figured out how to get these things out of my house. In the nicest way possible, she said that. So I was going to segue from I'm going to be there in like a year and a half to I actually thought about that, but fortunately, the very first place I called is a place called, I'm not going to say it just in case someone hijacks all my video games, but it's local to Bendigo. They're going to go and pick up my stuff. They're going to shrink wrap it, put it on a ship, and send it to me. It takes about 30 days, and I have to go pick it up from the nearest port, which is New Orleans.
Really?
But, I know it's really weird. But the price was actually a lot more reasonable than I thought. I was actually thinking it was going to cost thousands. It's only going to cost 1,500, which is actually a load cheaper than I thought, considering the value of my stuff and how much there is.
Wow.
So that was their estimate. They have to go pick it all up on Monday and weigh it all and see how much it actually does weigh and how big it actually is. But they said it will more than fit on a pallet, and that's how much they quoted a pallet for. So
you pretty much have a pallet of stuff. I mean, you only had like 8 tubs, so that no issue.
It was 11 75-liter tubs.
Oh,
but I think once you stack them and shrink wrap them, hopefully it will be okay. So yeah, hopefully I'll see my video games and all my. There's a lot of actually other possessions in there too, other than like personal effects and stuff. Hopefully I'll see all of that stuff for the first time in 3 years. It's crazy. It's almost like a time capsule.
Weird.
Like I closed those exact same tubs that I'm going to be opening and picking up in New Orleans. I'm going to be opening. I'm going to be the first one to open them again, unless Laura's been playing all my games, which I highly doubt.
You never know.
And it's going to be like a little time capsule of picking up my stuff. It's going to be weird, but I'm very excited to see it again. I don't know why. I think it's because it's about the only thing I can remember I have at this point, but I'm very excited to get my Earthbound back because I've always regretted not bringing it.
Well, that's it. I mean, like, I went to your house when you were moving, and there was, like, nothing there. So, everything that you have was just games and games and games and games.
Oh, right.
So,
right.
I mean, obviously, you were getting rid of a bunch of shit.
Yeah.
And like,
no, dude, there's a lot. There's 75-liter tubs. I don't know if you can imagine how big those are.
Oh, yeah, they're big.
But they're big. They're some big tubs. And when you're talking about filling, there was like at least 5 that were straight full of like CD video games.
Yep.
And that's not counting the cartridge ones. The ones that there was like 2 tubs that had purely figures in them. There was a tub that had purely like books and like Nintendo Powers and stuff like that. It's gonna be the most insane pickups video I'm gonna ever do because I'm gonna try and it's gonna be Christmas for me. I'm so excited.
Well, I was gonna say, like,
and I'm really scared.
Tie it in with like an unboxing video, like an hour long. No,
it's gonna be.
It'd be more than an hour.
It's gonna be. It's gonna be its own thing. I'm gonna try and do it real quick, but the thing I'm scared of though is there's definitely a flood risk. It's going by ship, and they're making me. Well, they're not making me, but they highly suggested I insure it because there is a flood risk. So I'm happy it's in plastic containers. Yeah, I mean it's a ship. I mean anything can happen, right? It's getting shipped in the bottom of a ship. So if there's a leak, I don't know. I'm not a ship captain, but
wow.
Yeah.
Well,
I'm gonna insure it for like 8,000 and hope for the best.
Speaking of ships, let's talk about Rare's new game that nobody cared about.
We can if you want. That's not on the list, but have you played it?
No, I don't have an Xbox One anymore.
All right. I actually like it. I made a video about it. We won't talk about it for I know you were joking.
No,
but
yeah.
One thing I will say is I haven't played it since like a week after that video because there's no point going back to it anymore. It's just I played it for like 30-ish hours and now it's like I'm just waiting for that DLC. They're gonna take too long. I think the first DLC comes out in May. I think it's too long. I think they're gonna miss the boat.
Too long. Yeah, my Caring set sail a long time ago.
Yeah, right. I think that game's gonna be all washed up by that point.
Yeah, they're walking the plank there. So speaking of planks,
they're really screwing themselves with the pointy end of a sword. Yes.
Let's talk about Nintendo Labo. Tell me about that.
Yes, a bunch of broken down planks that if you formed it all together, you could make one big plank. Nintendo Labo. Is there a reason you haven't picked it up? You're not a kid at heart.
Well, look.
It's expensive.
Aside from the fact that I haven't had time in the last month or two, it just doesn't look appealing to me. I'm not like
right.
That's
fine.
I appreciate it. I respect what it's doing, but it's just not for me. I mean, like it's a cool concept, really it is. But I just wouldn't have the patience to like fit it all together. I just want to sit down because like my time schedule. I just want to sit down and play something and then finish something and move on. I don't want to have that commitment.
What's the price of it in Australia? It's got to be like 110-ish, right?
Yeah, it's probably around
something
there.
Like that,
so
110,
what is it? What is it in the US?
It's 70 and 80 here, so I'm guessing it's like 110, 120, something like that. Maybe not that much. Maybe like 90 and 100.
Oh, Target Australia has the variety kit for $99.
Okay, yeah, so it's 100 and 110 then for the robot.
Yeah.
So here's the thing, and I'm going to cover this in my video, so I'll keep it brief. I like it. I think it's awesome. At the same time, I think it's awesome for what it is and not for what it does for me personally. However, I do like building it.
Yeah.
What I mean by that is it's essentially a build it kit, and I feel like it is a build it kit, and I feel like a lot of people are getting it confused with a video game. They're buying it and they're hoping to set it all up in 10 minutes and then play these really awesome little mini games with it. However, it's backwards to that. It is a build it kit that just happens to be branded by Nintendo and use the Switch really kind of crazily, magically well. But let's say if I was a parent, right? Some parents are on this mindset of, wow, that takes forever. There's no way my kid can do it. To be honest, it's really easy. The instructions are really easy to follow. Everything fits together really well. It's not like building IKEA furniture. It's actually pretty straightforward and simple. And the thing is, if I was a parent and I brought my kid an $80 in here, or in Australia, $110 build it robot kit, they went into their room and they came out in an hour and they were like, done, what's next? I'd be like, yeah, that was a waste of money. But if it took them 4 hours, 5 hours, or if I got them the variety kit and they built one a day for a week and it kept them quiet for an hour to 2 hours at a time.
Well, that's good. That's value.
That's closer to the value to my money. So that's where I think people are getting it mixed up. And for me, I love building things. When I was a kid, I had Lego, I had Connects, I had these like little metal pieces that when you fit together, it builds a motorbike. I had these this plastic soldering kit with a hot poker where you could build cars. Like I was all about building. So for me, sitting down and building this, it's like building a good puzzle. So I do like that. And I gotta say, the Switch itself, as I said, it uses it like magic. I have the piano next to me.
Yeah.
Actually, I'm just gonna go ahead and grab it because I am on camera and everything's gonna fall off. So I have the piano here, right? The Joy-Con goes in the back here, and then the entire piano works purely because the infrared scanner at the bottom of the Joy-Con picks up the little tape that you put on all the bits and pieces.
Yeah.
And that one thing can read you doing all of this and like different things at a time. And to me, that's just, it's almost magic. Like I set that up, I was like, if I was a kid, I'd have no idea how that works and it would blow me away.
Well, that's the thing is you are the target audience for this kind of product. Sure, while it's probably more geared towards kids, I mean, Nintendo obviously realizes that adults are going to be partaking in this kind of extracurricular activity.
They said kids and for kids at heart was how they labeled this thing initially.
And that's exactly right. So it's a testament to the technology that's actually in the Switch, because Nintendo's been associated with just kind of like lackluster just stuff. But if the Nintendo Labo is really cool, if it's using the infrared sensors that picks up all the subtle nuances of this little piano thing or the other things that they have as well, it's really cool. It's a really cool product, and I think Nintendo's really they've hit their own kind of thing. This totally unique. It's a totally unique experience. That's what the Switch is, and this is just another partner thing to that as well. So I think from what you're saying, it sounds really cool. Still not for me, but they've executed it 100%. So.
I would say it's not for most adults, but if I had a kid, 100%. And it is very quality too. Very, very quality product. The end product feels sturdy. Like I'm building the fishing rod right now. I actually just took a break to come to this podcast. Yeah. And, you know, in a weird way, it's so sturdy and so secure. It almost feels like I'm holding a fishing rod. And out of cardboard, I've made something that I can turn like this, and it feels like I'm actually turning a fishing rod. They've even put a little, it's so creative how they've engineered this thing. There's a little tab in there that clicks every time it goes around, like a quarter turn. So it goes like click, 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 like just, and it's completely done out of cardboard. And every time I've built one of these things, I'm like, wow, like how did their brains concoct this? It's crazy.
Here's how, I'll tell you how. And I think it's a really kind of cool thing, Nintendo coming full circle, bringing in toys with games, because obviously, as you know as well as I do, Nintendo used to be a toy company. After they had their card company and all that.
Cardboard card company.
You know, so it's kind of like they're going back to that kind of era of Nintendo, and just kind of doing something different. And I think that's where they're really succeeding in Nintendo Labo. Again, like I'm a kid at heart. It's just not my kind of thing. But like if it's sturdy cardboard, probably non-recycled, sorry guys. It's just it's a cool idea. I like it.
And segueing into the next thing, actually, yes. I think it's interesting that Labo has doubled the sales of God of War in Japan. I think that's actually very interesting and telling as to how well Nintendo products in general, but this cardboard build-it kit is actually doing.
Yeah, that's it.
And I obviously I find that really weird, but I'm going to segue into the God of War. Have you played God of War?
No.
I know you've been really busy.
It is on my list to get. The game absolutely looks phenomenal. Truth be told, I haven't played any of the other God of Wars, but this is the kind of...
I didn't either.
This is PS4, though. This is like quintessential PS4. Gee, I just had a video load in the background. But it's like the PS4 games are story-driven, single-player titles. And I think that's where this game, from what I've seen and read in reviews, has like totally just, it's 10 out of 10 from IGN. Can you believe that?
Something actually someone commented on my video that I did about it today, which I found interesting. I'm not sure if he stole it from somewhere. Was it Last of Us meets Skyrim in a God of War skin? That's very, very astute, to be honest. I think that's exactly what it is. And I just wanted to touch on it, and I won't talk about it any more than that, because again, I don't want to give spoilers like I said in my video, and you haven't even played it. But I've been continuing to play it since that video, and I want to say I've just fallen even more in love with it.
Is it a long game?
I've discovered more things. Yes, for a linear-ish story-driven game, it's actually about 30 hours long, and that's if you don't mess around and do a bunch of stuff. And actually, it's the most unique one of the most unique linear games I've played because it is very extremely linear. But for the last about 3 hours of my gameplay, I've been sailing around this little ocean area, exploring hidden areas and completing side quests, which they essentially are side quests in a linear story game. It's like they have little bursts of an open world aspect to it where you can explore, and there's dragons in the game, and that's obvious. And I just did a whole side quest around a dragon side quest, which you could completely miss if you just followed that completely linear story aspect. And I think it's incredible, dude. There's so many little things I love about it. One of my favorites that I started to realize, the axe really feels like an extension of your body. It doesn't feel like it's another weapon you're using. It really feels like it's part of him, to the point where when you throw it, wherever it lands, it like thuds in the controller and you feel the controller vibrate, even if you don't see where it lands. So it's like, it just makes you feel like you are connected to it. And as I said in my video, when you call it back to you and catch it, it's the most exhilarating feeling.
That's cool.
I love it.
That's really cool. I mean, that's the thing is like, if you're getting a Last of Us style game, which was, I think, only around 8 to 12 hours in that kind of ballpark, if God of War as a linear kind of story-told, story-driven, that kind of game, if it's 30 hours, that's a testament to how good the story actually is. If people are going to be playing.
This is probably the first game that I can say without doubt that I don't want it to end. Like, there are games where I'm like, I want to get to the ending. I'm excited to get to the ending, and maybe I'll replay it, or I'm excited to replay it. This is the first time I really feel like when this game ends, I know I'm going to be sad. I do not want this game to end. I'm so glad it's 30 hours long. It's actually giving me a Zelda feeling, like that feeling of a new Zelda title, and that excitement that I feel when I'm playing a new adventure game for the first time. That's what I'm getting playing this, and it's something that happens very rarely. Like, I was hoping to get it from Horizon, and I'm going to be honest, I didn't. I liked Horizon, but this for me is leagues above.
Wow.
Horizon was great, don't get me wrong. Horizon's a great game, but it doesn't even hold a candle to it, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's like people have said it's the game of the PS4. Sometimes some people said, better than Uncharted 4. So I don't know. It remains to be seen for me.
Better than Uncharted 4, I would agree.
I loved Uncharted 4. It was an amazing game. So
I think Last of Us 2 is going to give it a run for its money, purely because that first game was just I preferred Last of Us just because, I don't know, man. I don't want to go into it, but
we'll leave it with this. I saw a meme on Reddit the other day. People said it's "Don't ever talk to me or my son the game," or "Don't ever talk to me and my son again the game." I don't know. So we'll leave it at that. We did briefly mention Nintendo before. In the last couple days or so, Nintendo has a new president. That really kind of came out of nowhere, but it makes sense purely because Kimishima was supposed to be the interim guy. After Iwata died, obviously Kimishima was the president, and now they seem to have a new successor who, oddly enough, is in his late 40s. So we should have somebody, in line for the next couple of years. So Mr. Furukawa, sorry.
I think this is fantastic, personally. Yeah. I think it's the best time for a change, and I think the fact that he's younger is great. So I think it's the best time for a change because we're finally on a hot streak with Nintendo.
Yes.
We're finally going places, and it's on the up and up. It's not like we're handing over the reins when it's at its lowest, and now we're like, oh, great. So like now we've got all this trust in this guy that he's going to bring it back from the dead.
Yep.
It's actually the best it's been for a while, and you gotta be honest, a lot of Nintendo's thinking is very outdated.
Yes.
A lot of the things they do is they've been breaking the mold more with their games lately, but the online server still isn't up and running. We don't have an invite system on the Switch to play games with your friends. Some of the games have it built in to circumvent that, but there's no way to do that. There's no system where you can send messages to your friends or you can chat with your friends. Like, there's so many things like that throughout the entire Switch system that really needed a younger guy to come in. And this guy's a gamer. He's been gaming the last 10, 20 years since he was 20 years old. He jumped into gaming probably and got heavy into it around about the same time. Xbox One and PlayStation, actually not Xbox One, sorry, the first Xbox, and PlayStation 2 and PlayStation 3 started going online and playing games with his friends. So I think this is a great chance because it seems like sometimes Nintendo and the people that run Nintendo have never played an Xbox One or a PlayStation 4.
I know.
And you'd have to imagine this dude, unless he just really didn't want to, he's had to have had more gaming experience in the current age. I think it's going to be a fresh set of eyes and a fresh mix-up. And the other guy was like 70 years old, so he probably just wanted to pack it in and go spend some time with his family.
Probably. I mean, like, that's the thing is, we bitch about Nintendo because we care about Nintendo. That's the thing. So let me preface this. Like, Nintendo has always had somewhat of an antiquated way of thinking with things. They're on the up and up, but they need to, like, just because, like, sales are good, game sales are good, games are good, Nintendo Labo's out, that's cool. That doesn't mean they need to get lazy now. They need to continue the work just because they're kind of there. They need to keep pushing forward to keep that momentum. So I'm hoping somebody with a younger kind of set of eyes to this kind of thing will get in there and do what Nintendo needs to be done. I do remember reading a couple years ago that Nintendo was very against the online kind of service thing that like Xbox Live and kind of PlayStation Network has, whereas you can invite your friends, message and chat, all that shit. Nintendo's excuse was they didn't care and they didn't want to know about it because they're doing their own thing. So if they can, I don't know, if they can do something like that and kind of, that's the only thing the Switch is missing, just that sense of camaraderie.
I'm trying to think what word I use to see if I could fit it in here, but I can't even remember what stupid use I would... Repertoire. If they had that in their repertoire, it'd be a much better online system. Yeah, well, this guy actually, I'm pretty sure somewhere in here, I'm trying to skim this article, but I've already read it, said that he knows that the Switch has had a great year, but he wants to pump out more first-party games, and he's aware the Switch needs more exclusive titles. And, I mean, they're projected for the next year. The Switch has sold... It was 15 million was the last, no, 18 million was the last number we had announced. Wow. And it was 15 in the first year.
That's great.
And they want to sell another 20 million in the next financial year. So I think we're already about 3 million into that, 3 million units into that 20 million. So they need to sell another 17 million. And to do that, they're going to have to step it up.
Software.
And this actually, all these topics are actually leading into each other really well.
Yes.
So how would they step that up? We don't really know what they got planned right now, but E3 is around the corner. So right after this musical instrumental break from our good friend Eric here from Retro Game Remix, we're going to be talking about E3, and you're going to finally hear my as well as Eric's Smash character predictions.
Yes. So to segue, we have a musical break. I don't know what I'm going to do yet because I decided I'm not going to pull from my discography of 6 albums on Retro Game Remix, which you can get at EREKLAWD.bandcamp.com.
Highly recommended. That was amazing.
I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm going to do something new because I want to test out my new studio space. So there's going to be a brand new song. I don't even know what it's going to be. You don't know what it's going to be.
Interesting.
But it's going to be good. So we'll check it out after the break, and we'll be back with some E3 predictions.
welcome back to the Everything's Taken podcast. Eric, that was really great. I loved that.
Oh my God, it was so good. I don't even know what it is yet.
I don't know how you managed to create music that make my ears feel so good inside. No, I actually still don't know what that sounded like, but I'm sure it was amazing. And as Eric said, you can pick up that at retrogameremix /bandcamp /.com. I don't know what it was.
MySpace.
I didn't do it as good as you. MySpace.
That's all right.
Facebook. If you're watching on YouTube, there'll be a link in the description, and I do recommend it. Your music needs more love, for sure. All right, E3. Let's talk about it. I want to say first, and I'm hoping that now is a good time I can say this without getting chewed out.
Sure.
Because when I did my Nintendo Direct reaction, when I did it live, not the indie one, but the one before that, when I did it live and my follow-up video reaction, people were complaining that I wasn't excited enough, or I wasn't happy enough, or that I seemed disappointed. And I was trying to explain at the time that it was because apart from Smash Brothers, which got a very vague trailer and announce date for later this year, we didn't get anything new. We weren't told about any. We weren't given any release dates for any of these games they keep saying they're working on. The only first-party IP we know for sure what date it's coming is a Mario Tennis game. And apart from that, we're completely right now in the lurk as to what's happening.
Donkey Kong?
And yeah, but it's a port. There was a couple of ports, but it was like...
But it's Funky Kong. Funky Kong's in it, so it's a brand new game.
True. It's a brand new game. And that was my point at the time. Another point I tried to make was, yes, Smash Brothers is really cool, but we all knew that was happening. I mean, 2018 was a surprise, but it's not like that wasn't going to happen.
Sure.
Like, it's like you didn't buy a Switch hoping that maybe there's going to be a Smash Brothers announcement. So my point at the time was, you guys realize that there's E3 is 4 months from that point. It's 2 months from now, and that was 2 months ago. That's 4 months where we don't know when games are coming out, what games are coming. It's going to be a lull. And that's what I'm feeling right now. And actually, I've seen people feeling that online. People are actually starting to comment on my Switch videos. I want to pick a Switch up, but I don't know what games are coming out. I don't know when they're coming out.
Nobody knows.
And that was my issue, because it was like the Switch was so hot for a year. And then them not announcing anything at that Direct. And may I remind you guys, that Direct was like March. And we were waiting... Was it March? I'm pretty sure it was March.
Yep.
And we were waiting 3 months for that Direct. Like, after the new year started, we had no idea. We still had no idea. And then we finally got a Direct. So now we're going on a year after the Switch, and people are in the lurk, in the dark for 6 months as to when these games are coming out. And the only bone we were thrown was a tennis game release date, and the Smash Brothers is coming at some point this year. So Nintendo, I really feel like if they're gonna pull that card and they're gonna keep us in the dark for that long, they're gonna take a system that's that hot and put it in the dark for a little bit. They have to have some amazing stuff planned for E3. Do you have predictions?
The question is, what is going to be on it? So the first thing I can say before I do any predictions is they're going to say what they're going to say, and nothing's going to come out until September, October, November timeline. That's just the way it's going to go. They're holding us over with Funky Kong, Cool Trees Freeze, and Nintendo
Hyrule
Mario
Warriors.
Switch Aces.
Hyrule Warriors too, if you want to count that.
Yeah.
That's what I feel about Donkey Kong though. I'm actually more excited for Hyrule Warriors.
I'm more excited for Donkey Kong.
I'm not surprised, but I played Donkey Kong already, and I didn't finish Hyrule Warriors. But that's the thing. Like, most people are like, the ports.
All right, so here's my predictions. Animal Crossing Switch.
Okay, I disagree, but I would like to see it.
I disagree as well, but I would like to see it. Metroid for sure. I don't know if we're going to get a release date. I don't know.
No. Not before we get another trailer of some kind.
Another trailer.
Hype it up more.
Another trailer for sure. Obviously, they've done more than just a splash screen, which they did last year. I'm hoping. What else?
Bayonetta.
Bayonetta for sure.
I could see another trailer for Bayonetta and a release date for Bayonetta at the same time.
Fire Emblem?
Maybe, because we've heard nothing about that, but I have a theory that ties into that too, which ties into Pokemon as well.
Obviously, no Mario games because Odyssey's just come out. Odyssey's fresh. Pokemon, as you were just alluding to, supposedly there is a Pokemon Switch on its way, which, I mean, Game Freak only did handheld versions, so now they have no reason not to, of course, being the main Nintendo platform. supposedly a new iteration, a new version, a rebirth of Pokemon. So what do you think? Is that, like, obviously my predictions are kind of bare minimum because I want to keep my expectations low. But Pokemon and Metroid is probably really what I'm gravitating towards. What do you think?
So I'll start with Pokemon, and it does loosely tie into the same theory I have for Fire Emblem. To start with, the rumored release date right now for Pokemon is January 2019, or at the very earliest, late this year.
Yeah.
They're not sure, and they haven't shown us anything. It is a Pokemon game on the new Nintendo system. I don't see them building a game that could have fit on the 3DS. I think that would be a letdown and a cop-out.
Yep.
The games have been the same for a very long time. They upgrade a little bit, and I get they have a huge following, but they do have to evolve it, pun not intended, and continue and change the franchise.
Yes.
A conversation I had the other day that I won't get too into is, imagine if Pokemon had the Zelda and Mario treatment from the very start. You think about the first NES Zelda and you think about the first NES Mario. When you were a kid, if you imagine those games brought to life in your mind space when you were 8 or 9 years old, or however old you were, they most likely reflected something kind of like Breath of the Wild and Mario Odyssey, the big adventure games. That's kind of what you build up in your head when you're playing these old games, when that's all you knew and all you had. I remember playing Menace Beach when I was a kid. I actually felt like I was skateboarding.
Yeah.
Can you imagine if Pokemon had that, though?
That's what it needs.
The adventure you go on, like even the 3DS Sun and Moon Pokemon, when I'm playing it, I'm trying to imagine, and I'm actually there. Like, rather than looking down at sprites, top down, I'm trying to imagine I'm actually there throwing Pokeballs and I'm part of that world. If Pokemon had done that from the start, that's where we could be now, and I think it's time to start moving towards that and actually building and creating a Pokemon universe that's really creative and mixes things up. And I think that is why they not only haven't shown anything, but they're not sure when this game might come out. Because if you build a cake, the hell is an ant doing on my desk? If you build a cake every week, once a week for a year, the first cake you build is going to take you about, a few hours or whatever. But by the end of the year, you're probably building that cake in like an hour and you're good to go. You've already streamlined that. And you can, when you start, you're like, I'm going to have this cake done in an hour, and I know that for sure.
Yep.
So when you're talking about a company that has made pretty much the same Pokemon game, or at least Pokemon games for 10 years, 15 years, they would have a rough estimate as to when this game's going to be done. Almost, I'm guessing, to the week or at least to the month.
Yep.
They have no idea when this game's going to be done, which tells me they are doing new things, they are going new places, and they're not sure when it's going to be finished because this is all new to them.
That's what you want. I mean, like when Pokemon Coliseum came out for the GameCube back in like 2004, 3.
Oh, God knows, but that's a great game.
That was kind of like the first eye-opening experience. It's like, okay, we can change the viewpoint from top-down sprites to, third person or whatever you want to call it, like 3D adventure. So I kind of felt like they were moving in the right direction there, like maybe like 20% in the right direction.
That felt like the right direction, didn't it?
And they've never just come back and done it. So there's no reason for them not to do it. I mean, I'm sure a lot of other people as well have seen like some fan renderings of Pokemon using the Unreal 4 engine or the Unreal Engine, whatever they got now, and it looks amazing. And that's what I want. Yeah. That's what I want. And like, I think Nintendo knows that, as well as Game Freak. So I think it would be a mistake not to have a gigantic Pokemon experience in the vein of Breath of the Wild, Super Mario Odyssey, not like gameplay wise, but like scale wise. That's the kind of Pokemon game we want. And like, even if they took it back to the Kanto regions and the Hoenn regions or the Ho-Ho regions,
dude, it'd be so epic. Imagine going to that first region, the same one Ash explored, and you start in Pallet Town, you pick your Pokemon, and you take that first step out into like a Breath of the Wild world, and you have no idea what to expect or what you're going to find, but it's so huge and it's so immersive, and you're discovering all these Pokemon for the first time.
But that was my imagination when I played Pokemon Blue. I got a Game Boy Color and Pokemon Blue, Christmas 1998. That was back when I was in like kindergarten, first grade, and like that's all I would do. And like that world seems so vast now, but obviously when you look at it, it's kind of like it doesn't look as good as it did because our imaginations ran much more wild and free back then. But that's what I want.
You still have to use your imagination with the games, though.
I know. So I don't want. I just want it to be a big, expansive adventure with beautiful graphics, and what I imagined it to be when I was a kid.
The biggest thing for me is I want it to be like that, But how are they going to do the gameplay? How are they going to do the battling? Because a lot of rumors were circling around that they were moving to real time, which I am 100% down for. But when I said that in a video, people were like, if it's real time, I'm not buying the game. That's a stupid move on their behalf. So how I picture a turn-based game working in this universe is you would throw your Pokeball, you would have like that like Skyrim look, that Breath of the Wild like look of the character model or whatever, and you know, like walking around. But you would throw your Pokeball, and then you could start shouting orders, and you do an attack, and then the other Pokemon would do an attack, and you could shout an order. But during that, you weren't stuck to one place. You could walk around the Pokemon as they battle. You could withdraw the Pokemon halfway through the battle if you wanted. I mean, you could dive into that a little more. That would be if it's turn-based, or if it was real time, you could just do that as a free-for-all. Just start yelling orders at your Pokemon. Maybe if you haven't trained it enough, it's not as good at listening. So you got to yell tackle a few times before it finally tackles. But by the time you got it up to level 15, level 20, it's tackling on command. And that's a huge reward from leveling up and actually spending some time with your Pokemon. How do you feel? Would you turn-based or more real-time?
Well, that makes sense, though. Because, I mean, it's almost like Final Fantasy in a sense, because Final Fantasy gravitated from a classical RPG sense where it's turn-based 100% to a more real-time thing. So I think it would be kind of cool to have both options. It's the same thing like with the Final Fantasy VII remake that Square's doing. People either are on one side of the fence or the other. Either it's going to be real time or it's going to be turn-based. Personally, I'd be happy with either. Just if I can see one in an expansive world, you would just adapt to that gameplay. That's just what it is.
And it's Nintendo. Have faith.
Yeah, absolutely. But it's a different style of gameplay. I mean, that's the thing. So you would obviously embrace that, and I think it would be good for Pokemon to get out of that traditional turn-based kind of thing.
It needs to try something new.
That's what Nintendo's mantra is: trying something new every different time. Look at segue back to Nintendo Labo, because it's new. It's a different experience. So if we can refresh that Pokemon experience, and refreshing it graphically as well as gameplay wise, I think doing it all together is a really good idea. And there's no excuse not to do it because it's a brand new game for the Switch. Why not? It's the whole rebirth.
That's what you're gonna see. I know Sun and Moon came out fairly recently before the Switch came out, but you think about all their big franchises that have already launched on the Switch, like Yoshi and like Kirby, they were out pretty soon and fairly early and ready because they were copy-cut, pasted of the older games. Yep. That they could just make another one of. They told you the release date almost as soon as the games were announced, or shortly soon after, and then they did a long build-up to it and kept saying they were coming and showing you more of it because it was copy-paste what they've always done with the games. Yep. But Pokemon, if they wanted to just throw another Pokemon like 3DS onto the system and just get the sales from it, it'd be out already. They would have just had one made already because they've done it a million times before. They're taking that risk. They're doing it a couple years into the Switch. They don't even know when it's going to be ready, unlike these other games that they already put out, because it's something new. How new? I'm hoping very new, but I'm hoping at least slightly new.
I don't know. I just
that's my prediction.
I just look forward to it, honestly. Regardless of what gets shown at E3, it's always an exciting time, especially now that I'm living in Australia, because I get up at like 3 a.m. to watch the Nintendo presentation, which I can. This is the thing. Like last year, I woke up. I mean, I think it was 2 years ago. I mean, I don't know. It doesn't really matter. The thing is if I wake up in the middle of the night to find a disappointing conference, I'm going to be pissed off. So don't piss me off.
I'll quickly touch on a few other things before we go into Smash. Fire Emblem, I'll just say it's the same thing. Yep. They already have said they want to shake it up, and they actually already have said it's going to be a different game to what people are used to. And they don't have a date on that or trailers for that because they're not sure how long it will take, and that's another reason that bled into my Pokemon theory of they don't know how long it will take. I don't think they want to come out and say we're mixing it up because it might scare people. I think they're just going to show us and we're going to be like, oh, never mind, that's amazing. Mm-hmm. What else was there? Metroid. We'll see a trailer for Metroid.
For sure.
We could possibly see a release date, but I'm not sure on that one. I'd say 50-50 on that one, but definitely more of a trailer. Yeah, I think that was probably. I think we're probably forgetting something, knowing us. That was the main one.
Aside from that, I just want to hear more about Final Fantasy VII HD. I told myself I don't want to have kids until this game is out and I've completed it, because this is like the last thing that I want to do as a kid / adult / 25-year-old married man. Then I can move on to the next phase of my life. But this is the only thing that's keeping me from doing things.
From moving on.
Yes, because I have such...
That's weird, actually. It's funny because I completely forgot that other people have E3s too. I was like, yeah, that's all the Nintendo stuff. Let's move on. Oh wait, yeah, PlayStation.
Yeah, but that's really it. I mean, like, I'm more excited about Nintendo. Everybody's jazzed about Nintendo. Sony's got their own thing going. They've just got God of War come out. They're kind of writing their own thing. Microsoft is off in the corner. I don't know what the hell they're doing. And that's just the way it is.
Just kind of sat in the naughty corner and contemplating their life.
And Sega's coming out with the Dreamcast too, so that's great.
Yeah, I'm so excited. That and the Atari box is going to be a big year.
Sweet.
So I will touch on those real quick because we do have other listeners, I'm sure, that will get upset if we don't.
Yep.
PlayStation, you'll see some Last of Us 2, and I couldn't be more excited for that.
For sure.
Spider-Man, you'll probably see some of that, but that's a game that's about primed to come out. I wouldn't be surprised if you see Red Dead Redemption in... Rockstar doesn't have their own, so I'm pretty sure you would see Red Dead Redemption in Xbox One's conference, since it is 4K, and they're going to want to show off that true 4K and have it looking all glorious, and I'm pretty sure Xbox puts in a lot of money to try and get these third-party games shown on their conference to confuse people into thinking that it's an Xbox One exclusive. And... I wouldn't be surprised. Oh, we see more Death Stranding, but I wouldn't be surprised if PlayStation threw us a couple more games that maybe exclusives for early 2019 we weren't expecting yet. Well, also maybe a Days Gone release date. I don't think that has a release date.
That's the thing. Is this before we move on? There's one thing that really bothers me about E3s is specifically you name dropped there Days Gone and Death Stranding. These are both two games that were revealed way too early. And this
Don't get me started.
I know in Death Stranding we've seen like 20 different trailers for now. I mean, like, I love Hideo Kojima more than anybody else. I'm a big Metal Gear fan. I'm excited to see what he's doing post Metal Gear. I was a fan of his games before, such as Snatcher, Police Knots, like those kind of things. So I'm hoping that it has that kind of thing. But it's like, don't keep me waiting for like 5 years because I don't care. It's like games that have open betas for like 20 years and all of a sudden they release the game and nobody gives a shit. So, you've got to know when to show your cards, so to speak.
That is what E3 has become. I don't know if you recall, but you probably do. 3-4 years ago, E3 sucked.
Hell yeah.
E3 sucked for a while. It was all the Xbox show and their Connect and their dance games. And they were
TV, television.
And even PlayStation were doing the similar thing, and we were begging for more games. And then I was about maybe like 3 or 4 years ago, suddenly there was one E3 that was all video games. And PlayStation was really the one that was stressing it. They were like, it was for the gamers, all video games. Xbox One had a little bit about media, and then the rest was video games. And it was such a hyped up E3 that it's continued the trend since then. And people have finally moved past this whole entertainment system bullcrap, and we are just straight about the games.
Yep.
I don't know why I started talking about this because I've already forgotten what you said and I'm lost in a train of thought.
It doesn't matter.
Where was my direction going?
There's just something, when you get angry at something, right? You get angry at something, you know what you want to do? You want to smash it. You want to super smash it. So,
I just remembered actually, you were saying about how this is what I was going to get my point to really quickly. Yep. So what it ended up becoming at this point now, I feel like to keep it game focused, is they're showing us all these games they have working on with no expected release date that just have a trailer for a concept, and the games aren't anywhere near production. And then we're left waiting for Final Fantasy VII for years and years on end, where Skull and Bones was an amazing looking Ubisoft pirate adventure game that they showed us some stuff last year. Hasn't been a single update or single trailer since then, and we're about to hit the next D3. All these conferences have become, so they want to talk about games, do they? Well, to fill the time, we're going to talk about the games we're making for the next 5 years. I think I would rather if they just focused on the ones that were coming out in the next year. But anyway, and I will say for Xbox, they're going to show some Crackdown and then fumble their way around some indie stuff.
Halo 6.
That's about all they have. Xbox is really disappointing. Anyway, you've tried to segue about 3 times. Let's just go ahead and
let's just super
Smash
segue.
Predictions. So Smash is going to be coming out around September to November. A lot of people are pegging September, actually.
Are you?
Because a lot of people actually think this game... I'm being persuaded that way because a lot of credible sources and my friends seem to be believing September at this point. And I could see it happening because if Pokemon is coming out around around December and January, you're going to want to get Smash out before that, and you're going to want to get it out in time for Christmas.
Is it?
So,
there's two trains of thought. Is it a new Smash Brothers or is it a port?
The biggest thing that people are really stressing right now, there's actually a few things. One, it's done. At least very close to, because it is going to be playable at E3. So with that in mind, it has to be close to done.
Yep.
2, it's a new game, but it's running on the old engine.
Okay.
And that is something that it just makes complete sense.
Yes.
Because if it's done already, it's going to have to be the old engine. There's no way they rebuilt that old engine and they added enough new stuff to make it a sizable upgrade from the last one. And the reason that they couldn't just straight port it over is there's so many Wii U ports at this point that people will just be like, here's another one. They didn't even make a new Smash Brothers. Screw it.
Yeah.
So I think that these rumors are most likely true. It's about done. And if it's about done, which apparently it is, it has to be that old engine, which was a fantastic engine.
Absolutely.
Just maybe some upgraded textures, some upgraded character models here and there, and then of course a bunch of new characters and a bunch of new maps, and you have Smash 5. That's all you really have. Well, technically Smash 6.
Honestly, but I'm still holding out hope for Shovel Knight.
I think you might get it.
I might get it.
Let's talk about that. So you want to start with Shovel Knight. What else are you expecting?
Look, here's the thing. Before I actually say my thoughts, I thought it was actually a really fantastic idea, because I didn't think of this until now, is that it would be running on the old engine. Fantastic idea, time-saving idea. I kind of feel like, for as much as I want Shovel Knight, I wouldn't be surprised, because I think it's around the 20th anniversary of the original Smash Brothers. So, would it be cool just to have that original Smash lineup, but with all the main Nintendo franchises, no third-party characters? Like, sure, I'd be disappointed because I want to play as Cloud and Shovel Knight, possibly Shovel Knight. But I think it'd be cool to kind of strip it back and just, I don't know. What do you think? I didn't even think it was going to be a new game, to be honest with you. I'm just excited to play some more Smash Brothers, hopefully GameCube support. Other than that, I just want to get into it.
I don't think they'll strip it back, but I think it would be cool if they just made the when you start playing, the very first selection of characters you get are those first like 8 characters. Yep. I think. And maybe it's really easy to start unlocking some new ones. Maybe they have a selection of like 10 where you can spend credits to unlock some, and you can unlock them almost immediately, and then the rest of them are normal unlockables. Just that way, it's sort of like a nice little, here's the original crew. I don't think they'll do something like that, but it would be nifty.
No.
The first one I think is for sure is Waluigi.
Yes.
Because at this point, it's just a fan service. People have been asking for it for so long. It would be awesome. Like, it'd just be great. You've had Wario in the game since what, Melee? I'm pretty sure, or is
Brawl.
it the Wii Brawl? It's just why isn't Waluigi there? He's the last one of like the main crew that isn't there. It doesn't make sense. So I think you'll see him. I'll go ahead and talk about my main one, the one I said earlier, the outside of the box one. What about a Labo character? What about a character made of cardboard that can shapeshift into a toy car, into like, like you have Game & Watch who does all these stupid crazy things like throwing buckets of sausages. Why not have a shape-shifting Labo character made of cardboard?
It just makes sense. I mean, like, it's such a good tie-in. I mean, Nintendo's their last first-party thing really was Splatoon, so it's good to see them embracing it. Breath of the Wild Link, because we saw that in the trailer. Nintendo Labo would be cool to have some sort of cardboard iteration. It'd be cool to change it up.
I think actually now I'm even thinking about it now. It would start as the robot, obviously.
Yeah.
You would start as the actual robot, and you could shapeshift into the car, or maybe you have the fishing rod that you can use as a weapon,
Yep.
and maybe there's more things that they just add to it, like more creative cardboard things. I think that would be a cool idea.
Yep.
What other characters? I haven't really even put much thought into it. Felix the cat? No.
Oh man, that'd be cool. Truly, all I care is Shovel Knight. I pretty much got every character that I would have ever wanted in the last one. I mean, like Cloud, who saw that coming? No, wait.
So we're gonna have a bunch of links.
One more. Gino.
Okay.
Gino from Super.
I don't know who you told it. Who's that?
Super Mario RPG. all the listeners that know will know. He was probably the most highly requested character to be in a Smash Brothers game. Square, I don't know if Square didn't want to negotiate the rights, but he was a Mii costume in Super Smash Brothers Wii U. He was a side character in Super Mario RPG for the Super Nintendo. I don't know. Everybody made a meme out of him or something, and he's a highly requested character. So, will Square surrender the rights to have Geno in Super Smash Brothers finally? Let me know in the comments, because people are going to comment about that.
All the characters, all the listeners that know will know, as Eric said. So here's some things I don't think is going to happen. I don't know why everyone wants Goku. Can I just say that it's not going to happen?
Master Chief.
The amount of theories I've seen online for Goku is ridiculous. That's not going to be a thing.
No.
And Crash Bandicoot, I don't think is going to be a thing.
It'd be cool, but
I don't know. Keep Crash.
I would
away
sooner
from
see
Smash.
Banjo in Super Smash Brothers.
Yeah, dude, there's so many Nintendo IPs they could put in. It's just because it's getting the port over. People are like, Crash Bandicoot.
I know.
But no, I think, wasn't Crash in that All-Stars game they did for PlayStation 3?
Actually,
Pretty sure he was.
I don't know. But
I'm pretty sure he was. He had to be.
I feel like it would ruin it if there were too many characters in there. For as much as I love like a All Stars Royale,
It's already a lot.
I feel like there's too many characters, so I don't want too many more, because I like that core Nintendo group and like maybe a couple more characters. I really want to see Shovel Knight. That's really all I want.
I think the ones you're going to see, a lot of the new IPs, so you're going to see obviously Splatoon, they showed that. They're ARMS characters. You're gonna have the guy and the girl, the Spring Man and the Ribbon Girl, whatever.
For sure.
I think that's an absolute given.
Yep.
I mean, they're two fighters. Like, if you don't see them, it would almost be like Nintendo's just pretending that ARMS doesn't exist at that point. And maybe even Max Brass, you'll probably get, if there's a third one, you'll probably get that guy. What else? Okay, so with Breath of the Wild, I'd be interested to see if they do Breath of the Wild Link, Original Link, and Toon Link. Then you'll have 3 links.
Yep.
I'd like to see the new Zelda, because she's her own Zelda.
For sure.
It would be interesting to see that. You have 2 Zeldas. And then the 4 Guardian, whatever they're called, Guardians? They are the Guardians, right? Pretty sure they were called the Guardians.
Yep, something like that.
In Zelda.
Yep.
So you had the Divine Beast Guardians, and then each of their smashes would be the Divine Beasts.
Or here's a good idea. Breath of the Wild Link, his final smash is summoning the Divine Beast to do that big laser beam.
He does all 4?
Yeah.
That could be cool. Yeah, that would be
It just
cool.
makes sense.
It does make sense. You aren't wrong with how much sense that actually makes. I'm trying to think about more. I'm not really the kind of guy that really cares all that much. Like, I love the original cast, and I always play as Link. The original Link is all I ever play as. I mean, I dabble around in some other ones, but...
Ooh. Quick E3 prediction, Mother 3. It's gonna happen this year. This year, this year is the year.
Wasn't there something we talked about something in a podcast recently where they were doing something with Mother 3, an English patch of some kind? I got you all excited for some other. I can't remember what it was.
I think it was our second episode when we interviewed Rue from Clan of the Grey Wolf, 16-bit Gems.
Yeah, there was something Earthbound related happening, or Mother happening with Nintendo.
I mean, at this stage, who really knows? But look,
who really even cares?
I think I would like them to change the gameplay a little bit, to go back to the melee sense of unlocking characters, that sense of adventure. I would like to have that back a little bit. In terms of unlocking characters and everything, I don't want everything given to me right away. I want to do the 100-man melee on hard mode to get Falco. You know what I mean? I want to do that again, because that was fun. I want that sense of mystery and adventure.
Yeah, I would love a story mode.
Yeah.
I think go back to a story mode. Go back to a story mode and make it a little bit more skill based again, like Melee. The reason why Melee is still played competitively is because it was the last really competitive one, because they started adding in slipping. In the Wii version. And I think the Wii U had slipping, or at least there was something about it that people didn't perceive it as technical and secure a fighter as Melee was. I'd like it to go back to its roots a little bit and become more like that. Also, a couple more I thought about just then. Detective Pikachu. I think that would be interesting.
Costume.
Yeah. My Alexa app just heard me talking, apparently, from all the way down the hall. And then Mario Odyssey characters. I think you'd have to have a Mario with the hat, with the eyes, who has some special moves with the hat, like twirling it around him and throwing it on someone, maybe like doing a little bit of Kirby possession in some way.
Yeah.
I think there has to be, and then
that'd be good if they just changed Mario that way, like a bold idea.
Well, I think you could have the original Mario, because he was wearing this Mario hat normally in the trailer, so I'm assuming there's an original Mario, but also an Odyssey Mario could have some abilities like changing into a frog. Or whatever those stone things, like whatever else you could change into. There's a lot of abilities there, and I like to see some new maps too, like Breath of the Wild map and some Arms maps maybe. Who knows?
It'd be really cool.
Splatoon maps.
Breath of the Wild map would just be right in the middle of just a open field, and you see the I don't remember, the Guardians. Is that what they're called?
Yeah,
not the big Guardians, but the guys with the laser blue eyes. You know what I mean? Just running in the background.
What if it was one of them moving maps where you actually go around the map of that Hyrule game, around the Breath of the Wild map?
That'd be really cool.
So like you would be on a stationary platform, but it was just the background and would just make it look like you're moving around this entire area.
It's cool.
Yeah, you know. Well, I mean, we're probably past an hour at this point. We could wrap it up, go home, and build some more later.
Yeah, I think that's exactly it. Look, so we're at about an hour, 3 minutes, minus the musical break, which we haven't factored in yet. So, look, I think it's about a good time to wrap it up. I think this has been an absolutely wonderful podcast. I think we've done well for not really even talking in the last couple of months because we've both been so damn busy.
I'm really proud of both of us. Yeah. I think this is our best work, and if I could pat you on the back, I would. But I'm like 300,000 miles across the sea.
I'll do it for you.
You know what's actually one last little funny tidbit? Right before this podcast, you know Chris?
Yes.
You know Chris the cameraman? Yep. His brother messaged me and he was like, hey man, I actually completely forgot about this, but you live in Texas, right? I was like, yeah. And he's like, I've been here 3 days. I'm leaving tomorrow. We could have hung out. I was... That's the closest to home I could have been in 3 years. No. I could have slapped an attitude on him and pretended he was Chris. I could have pretended I was hanging out with Chris for a little bit. That's a shame. Actually, I'd actually like to see his brother and hang out. But it's right now as we speak, Chris's brother is 2 hours away from me. I find that it's weird. It's so weird for me. It upsets me I couldn't hang out with him. It's
really weird. But look,
really weird.
Before the end of the year, I'm going to come visit, and we're going to do a dual podcast together on screen. I mean, like, people know us as we are now, but we actually appeared on screen together several times. We've been in the same room together.
Top 10 sexiest YouTubers. my actual favorite video on if you're watching this on YouTube right now, or just go to YouTube, probably one of my top 5 favorite videos on the channel, top 10 sexiest gaming YouTubers.
And top 5,
me and Eric.
Top 5 winter levels.
Top 5, oh yes, top 5 winter levels in video games, and top 5 Wii U games of like 2014 or something like that. Those 3 videos are staple videos of my channel, and they are the most ridiculous and ludicrous.
It's basically it's really cringy to the point where it's funny, but it's intentional.
Oh, dude, it's probably just us.
I know.
One of my absolute favorite memories of us is not only filming that winter levels video, but it's the clip of us on that couch in Laura's house, and she recorded us watching the video back after we made it, crying, laughing.
It was really funny.
Just absolutely in tears.
Why did we do that? I don't know. It was good. It was good. So we'll recapture that magic, but hopefully later in the year when I return from whence I came.
Yes.
From where?
We should film a whole season's worth of podcasts in a weekend.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
We will not do that.
Yeah. Man, that'd be fun. Anyway, before we get too lost in a daydream, happy 1 year anniversary to the Everything's Taken podcast. We've pretty much done one every month and a half at this stage.
Yeah, I'm happy. I mean, we'll just keep doing that. Maybe we'll step it up now that I have these office hours and you have a studio.
Yeah, I mean, we've got one scheduled for next week with something cool.
A pretty famous voice actor of some variety. I don't want to give it away in case it doesn't happen because I hate setting things up for failure, but I'm really excited for it. And let's
just walk away.
Yeah, let's just walk away. The concept of giving like spoilers is dead, so we'll just walk away from the dead, and I'll go eat a clementine. I feel like an orange, and I have clementines in the other room. So,
aren't you glad you have a podcast?
I am glad I have a podcast where we can talk about things like Walking Dead and clementines.
Cool. Well, anyway, we'll see you on the next episode. Thanks again for watching, subscribing. Please rate us on iTunes and SoundCloud. Leave us reviews, all that stuff. Leave some good comments down below. I would love to actually hear some more feedback about you guys instead of talking about how handsome I am, how my dulcet tones soothe everybody, and how the editing is bad. So that's it.
Yes. Well, are you doing this one?
Yeah, I'll do this one. I've got all day Monday off, so I'll do it.
It'll be adequately terrible. No, I'm kidding. I love the way you edit them because I don't have to do it. Thank you guys for listening, and remember to subscribe if you are on YouTube.
Yep.
If you got this far and you're not subscribed, that's good for you.
Shame on you.
Shame on you though, but good for you. All right, we're out. Everything's Taken podcast. The podcast of phone home. I don't care. See you.
Whatever. Bye.